geographically all over the place, and during the winter and so forth, and during the summer also. So I'm really, I'm pleased, and I'm grateful that you guys came. But I wanted to just give, we wanted to, there are the people who've been working on this project actively, give you a sense for where we are, what we're doing, and what the status is. So to begin with, we sat here last summer, and we had a barbecue, which was wonderful, and we had kind of an impromptu, let's raise some money for getting this whole thing launched, getting this surfaced, and people raised their hands, and we raised, I think, like, what, $12,000?
Yep.
$12,000 in that one day, which was terrific. Now, these are donations to help our fund to pay for things that the township couldn't pay for. It was meant partially to get this whole project started with this resurfacing of these courts, but it had nothing to do with the other courts over here, these two tennis courts. Since then, we've had a group who've worked on raising money with the township, through the township. The township, through their legal entities, agreed to take your checks, our checks, in the township, make them tax deductible, and earmark them for the pickleball fund that was gonna build these courts over here. In the meantime, we took some of our money, when I say our money, our checking account money that we raised, we tried to raise money through the Spark grant, and that fell through. The requests were ridiculous compared to the funds that they had available. With that money, we also bought the bleachers over there. Becky bought them on Facebook Marketplace, which is great, for next to for $900 for the two sets of bleachers. And we also paid for the fencing, the additional fencing, the gates and the fence, to keep balls rolling all over the place. We placed a couple of net posts. That was a tune of about $6,400. So that's come out of our checking account. So the money that you guys gave at the barbecue paid for that, okay? We still have the balance of about $4,000 left. So now we have this monster over here, these two tennis courts, that we've been working really hard on developing a plan. We have a plan.
Can I interject something real quick, just before we start on that other thing? That the township is the one that are paying for the court resurfacing through their ARPA fund?
Yes.
So if we want to address that.
Yes, that's great, thank you, that was an oversight. So through the ARPA COVID funds that they have a kitty on, they're paying the $25,000 to resurface those courts. And we got multiple bids, and we have that scheduled to happen now probably the beginning of July.
End of June.
End of June, beginning of
Hopefully.
July. That should take 5 days to a week.
How much to research?
25,000 to scarify, to clean, to power wash, put down base coat with silica sand, so there's some grit to it, and then 2 or 3 coats of surfacing on it with lines that also have sand in them. So there's enough people who've been involved in paving and surfacing tennis courts and so forth that we have a pretty good group of people who know what that's all about. So we need somewhere between $70,000 and $90,000 to redo these 2 tennis courts and make them 6 pickleball courts. The number's up to $90,000 right now because we gotta have security cameras out there. We need to have signage everywhere. We want to have something that recognizes the people who've contributed, particularly foundations and corporate entities. So all these things are kind of add-ons as we're going along. So let's call it $90,000. Originally, when it was a little bit lower number, we wanted to get $20,000 to $25,000 from our members here. The more we raise, the less we have to get from foundations in the corporate community. Right now, we're about $47,000 that we've contributed, which is really terrific. And we'll get to $50,000, which means we only have $40,000 more to raise. The other aspect and the significance of participation is when you go to foundations, they not only take a look at how much you've raised yourselves, because they like to see that you got a stake in the ground, that you put your money where your mouth is, but what percentage of people have contributed. So 3 weeks ago, we were at 21%, which was terrible, paltry. We're now at about 46, 47%, and we're working our way up. I'd like to see us get up to 70%. That doesn't entail having to write a big check. For people who want to write a check for $25, $50, $75, that's terrific. We just need to have people counted as a participant in this endeavor. So we're going to continue to reach out to people. Becky and I went through our entire database of folks. Some people haven't played in years, or we don't even know who they are. There's other people who have contributed, made contributions, and they got a receipt, but we don't have any phone numbers, we don't have any email information. So later in the week, we're going to put out a Facebook posting, let everybody know these are the people who we don't have information from at all. And if there's anybody else who's not getting emails from either Becky or Bob Penny or myself, please reach out to me and leave your, send me an email with your name, phone number, and your email address so I can get you in the database. Because some of you don't read emails at all, which is fine. Some of you don't look at Facebook at all. I mean, there's a whole mixture of how people communicate with all our different means of social media. So that's where we stand. And the goal was to get to $50,000 before we start going to the corporate community and before we start going to foundations. Now, Sally and John Mixer have worked with the Muskegon Foundation. Where's Sally? With the Muskegon Foundation, who have sent us to their local arm, which is the White Lake Area Foundation, Community Foundation. And we've received very positive feedback from them. The executive director said, wow, you guys are really doing a great job raising money on your own. And again, we want to take that up to the next level so we can get as much from that foundation as we possibly can. So they'll be in the process of writing the grant request, and that will be submitted by August, end of August?
September's the cutoff date.
By September, and then we'll get notification on that sometime in November.
Yeah, they're pretty quick, yeah.
Yeah, okay, so that's where we stand right now with the one foundation we have access to. As far as corporations and companies are concerned, I've developed a Gary's Restaurant breakfast relationship with one of the trustees here, Dennis Kroll, and he has identified who the contacts are and who the people are who own these different businesses. So he's starting to put me in touch with people. I don't like to go out and make a cold call to somebody in the business community, so if I get an introduction from somebody, I feel much more comfortable that they can put a name with a face when I meet them. So that process is also going to start happening once we get our $50,000 raised.
I got a question.
Yes.
Have we identified ourselves as a 501?
No. That's expensive to do.
Okay.
It's expensive to do, and the fact that we can just we can take our money and send it to these guys
Sure.
That's where you get your tax deduction from. That's a pretty significant expense. We had a meeting on Monday to determine, or to suggest, I won't say to determine, to suggest colors for the courts.
That's important.
Are you worried about that?
Yeah. I don't know how you feel about fuchsia and pink, but
Maize and blue.
Becky has an iPad that she's going to pass around with the colors that the committee has suggested. And if somebody's adamant that they're not the colors that you like, then we can have a discussion on
Do they all contrast well with the ball?
Yeah, they're not yellow, right?
Yeah.
that. No.
Because that seems to be a
You're wearing them, Glenn.
What's that?
You're wearing them.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. Kind of. Happenstance.
We won't see him coming. We're not gonna do him
the same as the court?
Well, there's no color, yeah, they'll all be the same color.
Okay, so we're not just talking about the tennis courts,
No.
we're talking about these
No,
courts?
no.
Okay, I didn't realize that.
And this is really important. I want you guys, you know, I have not been a year yet of playing pickleball. I started pickleball June 27th last year. It's the first time I picked up a paddle. My career has been in tennis, and when I picked up the paddle that day, for 20 years I've been saying this is the most stupid sport in the world as a tennis player.
That's what we all said.
And then 3 days later, I'm like, how can I live without this? This is incredible. But I want you to know that the communications that we've been sending, this is not an exclusive group. The people who've been working on this and making decisions, there's not a communication that's gone out that has not had at least 1 or 2 sets of eyes on it. So this is something that is a community, a small community of people making these decisions and communicating and speaking to you. So it's not any one person at any one point in time. And that's important. Let's see, right now I have a meeting set up with the head of HR with Halmet. And kind of the goal in our mind is once we get those courts surfaced and finished, is that we build a pavilion, a lot like this with a roof over it, but maybe circular, that can hold a large group of people, with concrete walkways that are ADA accessible to the pavilion, a concrete pad in front of those courts where we can put 6 sets of bleachers and have a spectating area with a lower fence where you can look through, not have to look through a fence. We're looking at putting a concrete pathway along this fence so people don't walk into the middle of the courts here, but they go back to the far corner. And then this whole area being cleaned up with some security lighting and security cameras, because we want to protect this investment that we've made. And that could be to the tune of $150,000. And I'm approaching Halmet.
Is this a 5-year plan?
This is something that would be happening right now.
I mean the pavilion and all this.
No,
other
I think
stuff.
this is something hopefully maybe a couple years. So we get those courts finished by next spring, and then we work on getting this thing built within the next couple years.
Why would the tennis group or pickleball group want to put a pavilion over there? Why wouldn't the township do that?
They don't have the funds.
They don't have any interest.
Well, you know what, I'll tell you, that's a good point. Since we've had the success we've had in raising the money, no interest has come to interested, and now extreme interest. I mean, the supervisor's like totally behind this thing. Denny Kroll's totally behind this thing. The treasurer, Madge, every time she gets a check, she sends us an email, and she goes, wow, this is great. I mean, their enthusiasm over there is incredible. So,
And they stamp a little thank you on the envelope when they send it.
yeah, I mean, they're super. I met with Catherine Dussault yesterday, whose husband died at the back, right? And she's behind this thing, and she's behind this whole project, and she's on the planning commission. So the township is, matter of fact, the township, this is interesting, a township took the initiative by themselves to say, about a month ago, we need to pave this parking lot. And then a couple of us went into the township and said, you know, before you talk about paving, you really should be extending this. Keep it as crushed gravel for as long as you need to, but we're gonna need more parking. So they're taking the initiative now to look at extending the parking, paving part of it, getting some in-kind help from people who are contractors who have equipment, and making that part of what they have left over from their ARPA funds. They also took the initiative. I just saw this morning, there were 3 guys out here from a security camera company who were walking the property there because they've asked people to give them bids to have security here, and what would cameras cost and so forth. So they're really moving the ball forward.
So the township's gonna pay for the security cameras over there.
They're getting bids on it. I think that's
Are there security cameras there?
No, there's security cameras here, but
Yeah.
not over there.
Because initially you mentioned security cameras in part of that 90,000, and I'm thinking,
No, that's not.
we don't need security
No.
cameras, they do.
No, they're right, yes. Yeah, so our 90,000, the 90,000 we're raising would not be paid for the security cameras.
I'm unclear, are they going to extend the parking lot now?
Yes.
or- Okay.
Yes, they are. They are.
Hey, Glenn, just to play the devil's advocate here, it looks like we're making this into a pickleball park. And my wife asked me this morning, well, don't other people use the park? How many people use the playground? Does the township have any data on who uses the park?
I don't know.
What the,
I don't know.
I will make a comment. When I was here over the weekend or Friday, there was like a graduation open house. I bring my grandson here. They're probably never more than 2 or 3.
Daycares use it.
Who? Daycares, yep, I've seen daycare, but, so I imagine to reserve this pavilion, they would have that information. Because I don't think you can just come and throw a party, I think you gotta go through them.
Two parties.
But, yeah, so, but I don't know on just, use of here with kids, bringing little kids, I don't know if they keep that.
I don't think there's any intent to eliminate the playground or the picnicking area here as part of the plan. We're just kind of supplementing the entire parcel for the park with more pickleball facilities.
Yes.
Which, as you can look at this parking lot, just about everybody here is parked in that parking lot. And
There's
I
still
don't
more
see
people.
any playground kids right now, but
But
they're not changing the intent. This is a township park.
Yeah.
Yeah, the idea is this pavilion over there that might start as just a patio and then eventually covered, or maybe at the same time, would be a social area for people to get out of the sun and to be able to congregate, in addition to watching watching games in the bleachers and so forth. So it'd be a service as a social avenue and an area to get out of the sun and have some protection. And the way I'm going to approach this with How Met is, if they would pay for everything that needs to be done there, we would call everything on that side of the playground, including the pickleball courts, as we call it How Met Pickle Park, and give them the naming rights to it, and give them the signage for it, and give them the recognition. And that has yet to, I don't know if that's going to happen, but that's the intent.
Is there any intention to start doing some tournaments if we get the extra courts?
Part of our proposal presentation to How Met is to turn this into kind of a destination for pickleball for Western Michigan, which would include giving some free lessons, particularly if, I'm assuming like How Met wrote a check. Once a year we'd do an intro to pickle for all their employees. We'd want to bring those people over here to introduce them to pickleball, to enlarge the group, to do tournaments, to do events and so forth. So I think all those things could flow and follow, but we're really not approaching it from that manner at this point in time.
does the township have a master plan?
Yes, they do. And now,
Does it
and
include
now-
exercise
and now
trails?
we're adding to it, so, it's changing, because now they're looking at, so does the parking just go straight back, does it come here? So that is, because of what's happening with pickle, that is continuing to evolve. And they're already seeing a lot more traffic here, they say, with the playground and with kids, as well as people playing pickleball. So they're worried, but they're excited about being able to expand and have this be something significant.
In the expansion, is there a concern or attention to saving and preserving as many trees as possible? Part of the charm here is the rural forest.
Yes. Saving trees, right?
Yep.
There are some narrow pines, about 20 of them, that would need to be taken out if we wanted to build this pavilion. That big gorgeous oak right there would stay.
Good.
So the hardwood trees would stay. We would only take as many trees as we need to build the pavilion.
For the expansion of the parking, that's gotta get mowed down, right?
I'm not part of that conversation. That's strictly the township, so I have no idea what I haven't seen a plan for that yet, so I don't know.
My comment would be that if you're gonna approach Howmet, it would be nice to get the money for the courts. I mean, have them also, you don't have the money for the courts yet, and it would be nice to have their donation help with court, and then go above and beyond for the other things. I would agree.
We could do that. I haven't approached it that way. I'm approaching this from the position that I think with what the foundation could give us and what we can get from corporate community, that we'll have enough to cover it. We'll have enough to cover the courts. I think we'll be fine there.
Okay.
Has there been any consideration to put up some wind screens?
Yeah, as a tennis guy who's never lives with wind screens, there has been thought about that, but that is a real slippery slope as far as maintenance is concerned. You know, they don't have a maintenance crew here. Wind screens, when you put them up, at least half of them have to be taken down and floated down during the winter. And that means somebody's got to go up on a ladder, cut the zip ties and so forth, secure them at the bottom. So I think that would be a phase later on that we might consider doing, but initially I don't think we would do wind screens. Because somebody's got to put them up, somebody's got to take them down.
I know when we clean that all up, we have big crew that come out and help clean that all up. Has there been any thought to having some of the, like you're talking about, sidewalks and stuff done volunteer-wise? We could get a couple knowledgeable people that know about the cement and how to do the forms and stuff, and I know striking concrete is pretty on the board with those.
Yeah,
we have to sweep it. But,
we have not. We've included that. Becky's got a plan to build an 8-foot collar concrete walkway around the entire perimeter to keep pine needles and stuff and brush blow onto the courts. But that's all part of the request for the plan. We have not looked at doing making that a volunteer project. You know, the volunteer position is great, but I've been working for not-for-profits for a long time. People get really enthusiastic about volunteering, and you make that promise, and all of a sudden that enthusiasm kind of dies, and you're left with nobody doing the maintenance. So I would rather build in the cost of the maintenance first off and supplement it with volunteers rather than count on volunteers. Let me just finish. I mentioned Denny Kroll, one of our trustees, has been just terrific in introducing me to people and being a proponent of making this thing happen. After the first board meeting we went to, he met me out here on the courts and said, we're going to make this happen. And so he's really committed to it. If we ran short of funds, like we couldn't get the community and so forth, they might even give us some more, another couple $1,000 in ARPA funds to be able to pay for whatever's left over. So, but I think we're going to be in good shape there. I mentioned reaching out to people who contributed, who we don't have their emails, so we'll put that on Facebook. But we need to get everybody's email so we're communicating fully with everybody.
Glenn, do we have that list now here? Because I wonder if we can just distribute it. There might be hesitation of putting their personal information on Facebook.
I don't think
Well, Sally maybe had it.
Yeah,
you
no,
know.
I've got paper.
If you haven't been getting
Are
the
there
email,
people here
then
who are
maybe,
not getting any
email?
email communication at all?
so maybe put your name.
Yeah, I have here's a,
Okay, we're They're starting a list here.
so we're passing a clipboard around. If we don't have your contact information, please write your name and your email.
Is there a drawing of what we would like this facility to look like? Does somebody have a plan of
Yes.
drawn out?
I did prepare drawings of the site back here, it doesn't, it's mainly the layout of the courts on that slab, but we don't really have